Titanfall 2. Titanfall sold over 10 million copies, so I guess the sequel was always on the cards. However, there was this one sort of thing that people thought about the first game. They were like, oh, it doesn't have a campaign. It's the folks who made Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, and a bunch of other great games. But they did have this thing called campaign multiplayer, which sort of, I don't know, replaced it and fed people into the multiplayer part of the game. So I guess there's kind of this thing now. Last week or a couple of days ago, one of the guys at Titanfall said that the Titanfall 2, whatever it's going to be called, is going to have a traditional, I guess, single player campaign. So I've asked both you guys, or got you both in here, to kind of talk about whether or not you think that's a good idea or not. Whether you think it's worthwhile or not, I guess. First of all, Aaron, where do you sit on this?
I really appreciated that Titanfall tried something different. I really liked the fact that they integrated the two. They had the multiplayer campaign. I mean, of course, you have problems when you have player drop off and people trying to finish the campaign later on. That's something you can't get around. But my biggest problem with that was just they didn't commit enough to it. Not that it was there. There were moments in that one, like there's a mission on the Odyssey where this is like this derelict ship, where like there's audio prompts talking about trying to start the ship back up, but the players were never fighting in the like engine room.
Right.
Or there was one called Three Towers, an airstrip where they were talking about following a blood trail, but like you were never following the blood trail.
Yes.
So like I love the idea. They just need to commit to the idea more so that players are doing the missions. And then there's like at least a binary ending where there actually is the IMC win or the militia wins. Because the way that campaign ended was they were like, you guys want some and we guys want some, and now let's go do multiplayer.
See you in the next war. Jesse Stern said one of the shortcomings of the first game was that we just did not have the mechanism to tell everyone here's who you are, here's where you are, and who's around you. We knew all the answers, we just could not deliver on it. There was the kind of smell of a real new game there, or a real new universe that you were like part of, but you, like Aaron said, you kind of never really got into it that much. Do you think a campaign would fix that, or do you think they just kind of didn't execute on the campaign multiplayer idea well enough?
Well, I think the campaign will inherently allow them to flesh out the story and provide more context. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I think it's a worthwhile effort because it's a world that is somewhat interesting, that has, humans with abilities and robots that they can interface with, that is not something you see in a lot of games, right? So to sort of describe the world around that and present it in a way that makes it even more interesting would be a good move, I think. But what I'm more interested in is, rather than the online multiplayer thing where they're talking about the story so much, it's using a focused design campaign to allow the mechanics to do some interesting stuff that aren't possible in multiplayer.
Right, which Call of Duty used to do.
Yeah, like build levels around the mechanics that you have at your disposal to make some more interesting gameplay than just this is multiplayer that's dressed as a story, or even just a single player campaign that is like you against bots in a similar map or even a similar setup that you would face. Like do something really cool that's different from multiplayer that's not just telling a tale.
One of the things that sort of comes up whenever companies take on the whole single player thing is that spending time on these like super focused, super like content heavy development cycles for, single player campaigns might take a focus away from what otherwise would be done on multiplayer. Do you think, Aaron, they need to do much more with the multiplayer of this game? Because they kind of seem like they cracked the nut really well on the first time around. Like how much different gameplay do you need out of a Titanfall 2?
It depends. I don't know how, I can't speak to how limited they are on the technical side, but I can think of, just off the top of my head, of there's a lot that they could do with this game. In terms of when they released map packs, the maps were always thematically connected. And things like actually having players go seamlessly from one map to the next map without a loading screen, where you play a series of maps that feed into each other. Or things like doing PvE in the PvP. So there was a map called or a level called There Be Dragons, where there were these giant dragons, and when you shot them, they would just kind of like fly off rather than aggro on characters. So I mean, they could add PvE. I think that the sky's the limit on the universe. Was incredible. All of the maps told a story. And they could add mechanics if they wanted to, and if they had the technical capabilities to do it.
We got a bunch of feedback in on this one. Felipe Arajo puts a question in here. After some disappointments this gen, I don't buy multiplayer-only full-price games anymore, so this is totally worth it for me when it comes to the campaign. In fact, I actually put out a little Twitter poll. I got about 1,500 votes. 64% people said they were more likely to buy it if it had a campaign, with 34% basically saying it didn't really matter to them either way. That's kind of the thing, right? Is that like some people will play a campaign, but we always hear anecdotally when it comes to games like Call of Duty, some people just don't care. So it's weird. It's like you've got this split where some people will love a campaign and won't, or they're kind of done with multiplayer only games, and then there's other people who are like they think it's a waste of money basically because they're never going to spend time on it.
People consider every game for many different reasons. Sometimes it's brand. You know,
Right,
sometimes they want to get Call of Duty because them and their friends always get the new Call of Duty, and there's zombies. Madden, FIFA, same way. You know. But at the same time, if someone just wants a competitive experience, these days there are so many free-to-play competitive shooters that it's like, do I need to drop $60 just for that? I feel like for a lot of people, it's got to be a really compelling game that has something really different, like Titanfall did.
Yeah.
But now that Titanfall has come out and we've seen that, if they're going to come back again and charge full price, I think they have to do a campaign.
You're a massive fan of Rainbow Six Siege. You've been playing a lot of it recently. That's a game that's multiplayer only. Has that soured at all?
It has a situations mode, but you know, I have a hard time understanding how I think single player campaigns sell games, and I think they look pretty. They can make them look pretty. They look great in advertisements.
Yes.
And I'm not going to discount there are people who genuinely love single player games. But if you look at the amount of time that you're going to spend in a single player game in a shooter, not like an RPG, you're going to spend, let's just say like maximum 12 hours in the average game, like 8 to 12 hours,
and
right?
if this is an Infinity Ward thing, you could probably, you know, it would be fair to say it's probably going to be around 5 or 6, right?
You could easily spend 100 hours. I mean, that's not exaggeration. And some people spend upwards of 200 hours in multiplayer. So if you're a developer and you're looking at the budget that it costs to put in a single player campaign versus, you know, the people who are going to spend 100 or 200 hours in your game, I find it hard to justify multiplayer shooters wasting such a large portion of their budget when they could just do twice the maps or put it into some fantastic destruction technology or, you know, just better looking game.
But if you look at the numbers on his poll, I think that's a pretty good indication that the majority of people don't care so much that the campaigns are short and that they're going to get more value if they just play multiplayer a lot. I think it's a certain type of person that really just wants to do the multiplayer thing.
And then there was 34% said they didn't care either way. So you could take that as I enjoy the multiplayer a lot, or you could take it the other way and say I don't care about single player. Like it doesn't make a difference to me either way. So yeah, it's really strange. I wonder if the fact that as well, I did say when I said Infinity Ward, I meant the people who made those old Infinity Ward games. Of course, there's obviously Respawn Entertainment, Vincent Pella's new thing. But I wonder if the fact that this game sold 2 million copies and it was an Xbox One exclusive, and now they're making a game that's going to come out on PC and PlayStation 4 as well as the Xbox One. Like I wonder if that's if they have a little bit more leeway, you know, financially to sort of make it happen, and that maybe this is their like big play to take out Call of Duty, right? Like I bet those guys would love nothing more than to take over Call of Duty's like user market base or whatever. And I guess you're never going to do it unless you have a campaign, right? It's like you got to tick that box for some people.
And I'm not saying that they couldn't do a really good campaign in this world. Again, their map design for multiplayer were all fully fleshed out worlds. Like you could walk around the map and you'd be like, well, this is where the ships land. Here's the passport office. Like, here's where people live. I mean, it was so clear when you played those maps that somebody actually sat down and wrote a story and then made the map, as opposed to vice versa. So, you know, I think it's, as they said, I think they knew what the world was, and they may not have had the budget to do the campaign. Because again, like, I thought I saw an article recently they were saying as much as 75% of their budget might go into single player campaign. So it makes sense if you're just trying to deliver this multiplayer shooter to compete with Call of Duty that you just spend the money on multiplayer, and then if you sell 10 million copies, hey, we got the money, now let's make a campaign.
I should mention as well, Zabat makes a good point in the Twitch chat. This game actually did come out on PC last time around. The Titanfall.
Actually, yeah, that's true. And it came out on Xbox 360 as well.
Oh, it did? Yeah.
Dude, it was an awesome port. Blue Point Productions.
Yeah.
They did the port for that. They did the port for Gravity Rush Remastered.
Oh, really?
The Metal Gear Solid HD collection. They're one of the best studios out there that most people don't know about.
On top of it.
They're master porters.
That's excellent. A bunch of people in the chat as well asking, I mean, the multiplayer sort of online shooter world has changed a little bit. A lot more microtransactions now, sort of par for the course. Titanfall seemed to stay away from that for the most part. They had a season pass with some maps and stuff. What do you think about that? Do you think they'll dive into that? Respawn seem to be a team who really sort of they care about what their community thinks about them.
When it comes to microtransactions, if you make people care about your game, they'll want to spend money. And I think developers deserve to make money on the games that they release. I mean, the price of a game has been, what, $60 for a decade now? And I think a lot of the reasons why you're seeing crazy stuff like premium and Battlefront launching with 4 signature maps per mode. I think their budgets are getting cut down by the fact that they're still selling games for $60. And so I think at this point, developers are either going to have to raise the price of games, do things like premium, or do microtransactions. It doesn't seem like, what I gather from talking to developers, it just doesn't seem like the $60 game is going to cover their costs anymore.
Yeah.
So to me, microtransactions are the lesser evil if they're done right. If they're not cutting out content and making you feel like you're not getting a good deal. If they're making you love the game and then they're giving you things that you want to buy because you love the game.
Just as long as they're not, taking away some of the fairness in it. Like I remember the burn cards they had in the first game. If you could suddenly like just acquire a bunch of those FIFA style, I guess we'll find out.
It depends. A lot of games have just gone vanity with it.
I mean, we're seeing Overwatch now, like the beta's out this morning. In fact, there's going to be a stream on right after this live show, which Eric Tay is going to be playing. The game, they've got a bunch of new skins and whatnot. I'm sure they're going to start selling those bad boys too.
Yeah. There's egregious breaches of that though. Like in Battlefront, they sold the DL-44 blaster as Han Solo's blaster for $10 extra.
$10.
Oh my god!
And it was
it
was the highest level unlock in the game, and ended up being the OP pistol that everybody hated.
Oh really?
So like that was just totally egregious.
That was just their
yeah,
like just throw a grenade and close the door kind of last DLC move.
So I get why people are apprehensive when microtransactions get kicked around.
Yeah, can't trust them. Apart from that though, last thoughts on this? Excited for Titanfall 2? Titanfall?
Yeah. Respawn Entertainment is one of the few developers that I've spoken with in previews.
Right.
Where a lot of developers give you their BS marketing push and you don't believe them, you learn not to believe them. These guys, I thought that they were BSing me, and then they delivered this like 5 or 6v6 combat that I thought you couldn't do with mechs, and they had great mechanics like ejecting just to give you more time to play the game. A lot of the things that I thought they were BSing me on, I was totally wrong. Like they were absolutely right and they knew what they were doing. So I'm excited to be proven wrong if I'm doubtful of this game again. If that happens again, I will be very excited.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Peter, what about yourself?
I'm very much excited. Titanfall was one of the best shooters for me in probably a decade or more. I love the new things they did, and I can't wait to see what else they have up their sleeve. I really want there to be new Titans that do some ridiculous shit, and I'll be really happy.
It was a game that sort of, I guess it was one of the early games that came out on that next generation of consoles, the current gen now. It felt like it was like 80% of the way of being something super, super special.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because it was really special, but it was like, it never like, that last sucker punch just never came.
I think and I hate to say the campaign is the most important thing, because I don't think it is, but when you really want to identify with a world, like, you got to struggle, you got to succeed, you have to like go through, what it means to be a person in that world, not just have someone in your ear telling you, hey, I just want to convince you that you're really here and that you're a part of this shit. Like, you have to live and breathe it and do it. And so, yeah, that should be really cool. They can pull that off.
It could go either way. You never know. Like some games you play a lot of multiplayer, some games you've just played a campaign. Like I look at Call of Duty and I only ever played a multiplayer, and I look at Killzone and I only ever played the single player. So guess we'll see where this one lands. Let us know what you think. If you're excited about the new Titanfall game, whatever it's going to be called, please call it Titanfall. Let us know in the comments below.